is really going to be crucial, because a lot of times we don't make that call until late in the day because we're hoping that the weather will pass us by. The behavior expectations are nothing new. One of the things that we do have the luxury with track is
still jump and do it. Usually you have to do high jump. Isn't that the one that you go over the thing?
That's where you run. Yeah, you jump up over.
Yeah. You have to do that before you.
Folks, can we make sure that we have our mics muted while the coaches are talking, please?
So the behavior expectations, one of the things we have the luxury with when it comes to track is a lot of times we can be running 4 events. So it's not, if something happens that you're not getting some work in, you're not behaving in class, a lot of times we issue what we call strikes, but you just lose event opportunities. So it might just simply, you're not going to run a certain event, but you can still run your other events. So just like in basketball where you might sit out a quarter, you may just sit out one of the events. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, we want to, meet all the school's expectations, get your work done. And typically, Mike, and you can contest to this, I don't think we've had anybody be dismissed from the team probably in the last 15 years. It's just very, very rare because people want to be there. Travel and meet expectations. We just had that curveball thrown in there by Mr. Langkamp that you're more than welcome to take your kids to the meets. And I know I have the schedule at the end of this. I'll pull it up towards the end. They're all fairly close. That might not be a bad option for you. All I would say is email us and let us know, because a lot of times when we get on the bus and we go to the meet, that's the first time I can figure out who's actually absent and who's not. And then we're trying to scramble to fill out relays. So if there is a 4-person relay and someone's absent, we have to try and find someone else to fill in. So if for some reason you're taking your child to the meet and we didn't know that, we don't know for sure if you're going to be there or not. We don't know if we should replace you or not. Because typically when we get to a track meet, the coaches have to go and we have to make all of our scratches. We have to let the home team know who's not going to be there, and then we can write in our replacements for it. So the more we know, the better. And again, you're more than welcome to take your child home, but it's got to be your child, and we are asking that you sign your child out. So that's the huge one. I know sometimes we forget to do that, but when we get on the bus and we take attendance and we take roll call, we don't know for sure where your child is. So even though you may email us and say, hey, I'm taking my child home, we want you to sign them out, because we don't know if something all of a sudden happened that you had to leave for an emergency and your child, was waiting for you in the bleachers, and, we accidentally left them because we thought you were taking them. So that's why we ask for parents to sign out their kids. And even if you bring your child to the meet, we ask that you sign your child back out so we know that you're taking them home versus are you going to drop them off and then they're going to come back on the bus. So, please try and remember that. I don't think in basketball we had any issues this year, but I know in track in the past we've had a wait on the bus for 20 to 30 minutes waiting to hear back from a parent that they truly have their child. And then we'll send this home to get signed, and you can look at it more carefully. Here's the practice, or not the practice. Here's the meet schedule. So we don't want to have our first meet till the end of April. And it's kind of nice. We got a Tuesday meet, and then they're all Mondays. So it's easy to keep track of. And I believe it's, that Tuesday, then it's the 4 Mondays in a row. And we do have 3 meets, which is nice. And that's not normal. Most teams only have 1, maybe 2 meets. Now, one of the things that Mr. Tatterson didn't bring up that we are going to have to talk about is we need you, the parents, to help us out as much as possible. Because in order to run a meet, we need lots of workers. And we need, 8 people at the finish line recording times. We need people at the high jump and the shot and the disc. So the more parents that we can get, the better, because it makes the meet go faster. Now, the nice thing is all of our meets are dual meets, so they should go pretty quick. Otherwise, some meets have a habit of going, 3.5 hours with their tri meets or quad meets. But if we have a lot of parents and everybody's helping out, if we have a dual meet, we can probably get done fairly quick this year. The order of events is up here. And not all tracks do this. This is WIA order. I know sometimes meets will have the boys run first and then the girls. It's pretty rare, but every once in a while they do it. Typically, we have, say, the girls high jump first and the boys. Every once in a while, when we go someplace else, they flip it around. And we don't find out until we get there. Practice does start on April 12th, and we'll meet at 3:30 in a gym. We only have one gym right now at the middle school. So we'll be sharing that gym for attendance purposes. We'll have to talk with softball and see how many people are out for softball. But we will meet in a gym right away after school. So bring stuff to get changed with. One of the things I did talk to the coaches with yet is we don't have lockers. So I think what we'll do is when kids get changed, maybe if they have any bags, I would recommend with phones and stuff, we don't want to get those stolen. I think what we'll do is lock stuff up in my room. My room is one of the few rooms that's done, and maybe we'll lock all the bags up in there, and then kids can get them after practice because we don't have lockers in locker rooms. So, there's no place to put your Chromebook and all that stuff. So we'll have to create a space for you. On Wednesdays, we still have practice at 3:15. So we ask that you do leave the building and that you come back for practice. And we'll be at the doors by about 3:15 to let you in.
Coach, I'm going to jump in real quick if I can. To your point about no lockers, we are allowing students to change in the bathrooms. So I believe we can have up to 2 students that can change in the bathrooms throughout the building, and that's been kind of our common practice throughout the school year here with all of our sports. So you'll have that option to do that as well. And then with the track meets, the home meets, I will be sending out an email as we get closer to our first meet, and that'll be a sign-up sheet for all the different events for how many parents that we need. I usually can figure out a combination of school district employees and some high school athletes for track and field, as well as some parents, and get a decent mixture to be able to do all those home meets. But Coach brought up a great point that we're going to need a lot of help from parents and families to be able to run those meets.
The only other things I wanted to talk about is what events is your child going to run? And your child's going to have a lot of say in that. We typically ask kids to pick between short distance and long distance, or they can do a combination. So if your child wants to run short distance, we're not going to tell them that they have to run the mile, unless you tell us you want them to run the mile. Then we can have them run the mile. But we're not going to make them, run the mile if they've been practicing for the 100 and 200. And typically short distance is 1 lap or less. I know some people will say, well, I signed up for short distance. Well, the 200 is short distance. So is the 400. The 800, which is 2 laps, and the mile are long distance events. And then field events. You can sign up for whichever ones you want. Typically, we ask you to try a couple different ones. And maybe you try a couple different ones in 7th grade and you try some different ones in 8th grades to figure out what you really want to do in high school. Now, at the high school level, they tend to steer you towards the events they want you to be in. Middle school, you can pick. So if you want to do the high jump, you can do the high jump. If you want to throw a shot, you can throw a shot. If you want, and we kind of lump the hurdles in there, although technically it is a running event. You can try and do that. So I'm not going to throw you in a shot put if you've never practiced it and don't want to do it. Now, if we get to a meet and you say, hey, Mr. Ritu, I want to try, the shot put. Yeah, come on, give it a try. That's what the middle school track years are about. It's trying to explore the different events and see what you really like. And then the last thing, if you see down here, if you need to get in contact with a coach, typically we each take a grade level and a gender. So Coach Bale, is going to do the 8th grade boys. So if you have any questions about that, he's the one that kind of oversees the scheduling of the meet for them and who's going to be doing what. I have 7th grade boys. Meinholz has 7th grade girls, and Attell has 8th grade girls. So these are the coaches that will be good to contact because they'll have the most knowledge about who's doing what for what events. So feel free to email the individual coaches if you have any questions. Coaches, do you guys have anything else? Parents, do you have any questions?
I do.
Yeah.
I can't commit to it at all, but is there room for parents to come help coach with shot put and discus?
Is that you, Mr. Rogers?
Yes, sir, it is.
Yes. If all the other coaches are okay with that, then I would say yes from my end. Are you okay with that?
As a shot and disc coach, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's hard to be, coaching both the shot and disc at the same time. They're separated by about 50 feet, so it's nice to have, someone who would be at one working with some people versus the other. So yeah, I'd absolutely welcome that.
And John, you and I can touch base with Mr. Wattoon too, because especially with me going back to coaching the throws at the high school this year, we can the three of us can meet together for specifics within those events as well that we can prepare.
I would consider Coach Catterson my boss then, because he's the high school coach, and so he tells me what to do and what he wants. Tries.
So let me just jump in on that. So first of all, we'd have to make sure we get a background check. And then the other piece I would say is if we're going to do that, we'd want a pretty regular commitment from somebody. So it wouldn't just be something where somebody showed up when they could, sporadically or once or twice, type thing, because that's not good for kids either. We'd want kind of a regular commitment, and wouldn't necessarily have to be every day, because if it was prearranged, said, well, I can make Mondays and Wednesdays or something, hey, that'd be great. But I think as long as we had kind of a agreed upon schedule, fairly regular schedule, and then, like I say, just the background check forms.
Yeah, and I would say email me, because we don't do shot and disc every night. It depends on, we work around the high school. So yeah, it's a good idea to email, see if we're even going to do field events on a certain night.
Okay.
Coach Meinholz, you had your hand up?
Yes. If you are sending us an email, make sure that you put in the subject track or question about track, so then we know where the email's coming from, because you may be emailing us because of a grade, but we would like to know if it's specifically for track or if it's specifically for a grade.
Any other questions out there? And as we leave this meeting, if you have a question that you think of, if you want to take a screenshot of our names and our emails down there, or you can just send them to whichever coach you remember, you can, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. I know I had at least 2 parents email me already wanting to get information because they were unable to attend tonight. If you're a student listening, talk to your peers. Without having a team last year, usually we have the 8th graders that are trying to get a lot of the 7th graders involved. Talk to your peers and see if you can get a lot of your friends to join track. We've had years where we've had 70 to 80 athletes. And so we'd like to get back to those numbers, those pre-COVID numbers. Right. So if there aren't any other questions, Coach Catterson?
Parents, I'm just going to share with you that as we go throughout in the next couple of weeks, I'll be gathering information as far as which students might need physicals and that type of stuff, and be able to share with you ahead of time if that type of information is needed as we go forward for the season. Otherwise, to echo Coach Wattoon's remarks, if you have any questions regarding the overall process of everything, you can contact myself or Mr. Langkamp, and we can help you out with that as well. And again, want to thank you for being able to join us tonight, and thank you for allowing us to work with your students here throughout the spring season.
All right, thank you everybody for coming. I'll stick around for a few minutes if anybody wants to, ask a question more one-on-one. Otherwise, have a great night.